Okay, everyone, how are you today? Good. I'm so glad that you were able to join me. This workshop will be done in a webinar format. I apologize for that. I had a few things come up this weekend, so I had to tend to those and change the time of this workshop as well as change the format. So I hope that you all are able to watch this and get something from it. I'm going to briefly introduce myself. I am Pranithia Harmon. I have been gardening for majority of my life. I started with my grandfather, watching him grow different fruits and vegetables in our yard. You guys kind of know my story. I tell it often. But this series I started is a 5-day or 5-part series that took place every Saturday starting February 19th. And we have talked about every step to having a garden in your yard or wherever you live. So today's step is companion planting. We've already touched on starting your seeds, which now you should be 2 weeks in. So your seeds should at least some of them should be between 3 inches and maybe even a foot tall. I have some beans that have grown. I have various tomato plants, squash. A lot of things are popping up in my seed starting collection. So I'm excited about that, ready to put them in the ground. Today was actually the first day that I was able to put my plants in, put my plants outside to start hardening them off, which I'll talk more about that later. But as a wild tangent, really quick, hardening off is when you introduce your seedlings to the outdoor elements. So we'll touch on that later. But today's topic, I want to jump right in because I don't want to be before you too long. It will be a brief series today, a brief workshop today. But the title of this is called Companion Planting. Companion planting is a big deal out there in the gardening world. Some people believe it works and some people don't. I am still partial about it. I have experimented in different ways. I do believe that companion planting from certain aspects may be better than others, but the whole idea behind it is to put certain plants together that can be beneficial to each other one way or another. So we are going to go ahead and jump right in. Today we're going to cover, of course, explain what is companion planting, then why companion plant, the how-tos, and the results you can get from companion planting. I kept it really, really simple for the sake that I don't want to take too much of your time. This isn't very interactive, but it will give you an opportunity to get some information, maybe take notes, screenshot, or something like that. So, I like to start with a quote. All of my presentations, all of my workshops, all of my classes, I have quotes in them. Quotes are things that kind of stick with you. They leave an impression and you can take them with you throughout your gardening career. And some gardening quotes even can become quite personal depending on your perspective of them. This particular quote was anonymous, but it says planting a garden with food potential is one of the best valuable things we can do. When we start planting our gardens and the potential for food is there, think of all the things that come with taking care of that and growing those items and bringing them from seed to your table and from working with your hands to be able to put something in your mouth. It is such a joy. And out there in the garden, it's relaxing watching the water flow from the hose or from the watering can and being able to see the fruits of your labor. Those are some valuable and rewarding things that come with being a gardener. So take that quote with you when you're out there. So right now the question is, what is companion planting? We're here today because we all have that question. I had that question when I first found out about it. I was like, what is that? I'm just planting stuff and hoping that it works. Lo and behold, I was planting stuff together that did not work. And I didn't know why. And part of it was because I was going against the grain of the companion planting idea. A simple phrase that I put together to describe companion planting is natural protection and natural benefits. That's pretty much what it offers. By definition, kind of, this is my interpretive definition. Companion planting is a way to naturally protect your garden from pests while providing nutrients by planting different types of plants near each other. For example, there's something called the Three Sisters. It's where you plant corn, a squash variety, and a bean variety, particularly a pole bean variety, together. What happens is the beans provide nitrogen into the soil. Nitrogen is one of those nutrients that all plants need to grow, just some need more, some need less. The nitrogen comes from the beans. The beans also get stability from the corn stalk because they're pole beans, so they vine and they get to trellis around the corn. So technically, in this case, you plant the corn first. You let the corn get maybe about 6 inches tall. Right now, my corn is about 3 inches tall. When it becomes about 6 inches tall, it's going to start to put off a couple of true leaves, and then it's going to put off a second set of leaves in about another week from today. And I'll be able to put them outside in full sun. Since they're about 6 inches tall, I can also go ahead and plant my beans, my pole bean seeds alongside it. What should happen is my corn will continue to grow and my beans will begin to grow around and next to it. Simultaneously, I will plant my 2-inch tall squash starts. They'll have their true leaves, have already been exposed to outdoor elements, and are ready to be planted next to the corn. What will happen here is the squash will provide shade over the soil, so that's less watering, and corn needs water, less watering. The beans will provide nitrogen, which corn needs a lot of, and the corn will provide a trellis system for the beans, while the beans provide that nitrogen for the corn and the squash will grow prolifically throughout that bed, in addition to being protected or helping protect the corn's root system as well as the beans' root system by providing that shade below, maintaining and containing the water. So these three things go together. They're very, very common. In the squash family, you have things like your regular like butternut squash. Even pumpkins are considered a squash. So these things are what you can plant together to get that Three Sisters vibe. Other things you can plant together. You can do something to control pests, like planting onions next to cabbage. Cabbage tends to get the cabbage moths. They are deterred by strong scents, such as the scent that comes from onions. We mentioned nutrients as far as nitrogen provisions from planting beans or seeds, and then also planting different types of plants near each other, such as planting nasturtiums near a growing tomato plant. It's possible that the bees that are attracted to the nasturtiums will also be attracted to your tomato plant and cause pollination to happen, and you'll get more of a production. So all of these things have their benefits and are the reasons why companion planting is popular in gardening. All right, next, we're going to talk about common companions. I kind of mentioned a few of these. I already mentioned corn and beans and why it makes sense to put them together. Onions and strawberries, they're repellent. Strawberries have a tendency to have snails that like to eat on the leaves, and you might have other pests that come forth, but onions kind of take care of repelling those things because of their strong scent. Same with celery, it has a strong scent. So with cabbage, it'll deter a lot of the pests. And marigolds usually provide a good color and scent to excite and motivate the bees and other insects to come into the garden, your ladybugs and of that sort. And those are what helps maintain the ecosystem of a garden. If you can build that ecosystem where you have room for insects that you want and don't want to be able to join the space and still have food for yourself, like I think that is the aspiration and the goal to reach, where you can still provide the best of both worlds, kind of like your own Eden. No matter how big or how small, you're able to create that for them, because honestly, starting a garden is treading on the space of the insects. and the animals. They were out there first. And now we're building something on top of their space. Personally, I think we should learn to work with them. That's why I put we go together. All right, on to the next one. So the question of the day we want to know is why companion plant? That's the question. Why should we companion plant? I companion plant because I want pest control, but I also want plants to share nutrients to provide better growth. I want a prolific garden. I want it to be successful. I want my corn stalks to grow really big. I want nice, big, full tomatoes in abundance. I desire to have beans growing just continuously throughout the season. I want my fruit to grow beautifully. And in order to maintain that, I want to do as less as possible. I want to spend more time enjoying being in my space and enjoy eating the abundance, but with as least amount of issues I have to face as possible. Now, I will tell you, in addition to companion planting, you should pay attention to planting the right things in the right season. Planting the wrong thing in the wrong season, not only does it take away the motivation that you might have, but it also will allow other things to come in that if you planted them in the right season, you would not have experienced. For example, planting tomatoes in the winter or closer to a cold season would mean that the tomatoes will not survive, and you're likely to be a bit disappointed, wondering what happened with my tomatoes, but you planted them too late. So being mindful of the season that you're in as well. That's a tangent. I will let you know what to plant. As far as pest control, if you see the picture in the center, it has a leaf that's been like just mutilated, poor thing. This leaf, along with this ladybug beetle here, this one in the picture will eat, or the variety of them will eat some of the leaves and pretty much destroy what you have there. There are ladybugs out there. I think they call them like the 5-dot or something along those lines, ladybug. And she is a predator in the garden. Some people still keep them, but they are predators, so you have to watch really closely. They're flea beetles and cabbage moths and white flies. There are, I can't think of it, the tomato hornworm. He loves tomato plants. I've only encountered one in my 4 years of growing at my home. When I saw it, it was covered in, I think it was covered in white flies. And I did not know, or moths, white moths. I did not know, cabbage moths, I think. I did not know that they already, once I see that, I can just leave it alone because they're doing their job. I actually took the whole thing and just like threw it out. I didn't want any of it in my garden because I didn't know what would come of it. But in actuality, that would have been a natural course of action in the garden, to just leave it because the cabbage moths would have taken care of the tomato hornworm. So you learn stuff as you go along. But the goal is to plant things in place that make sense to the nutritional value and pest deterrent of your garden. So do your research in this area. Look things up that will lead you in the direction based on your zone and where you live and what you're growing in your garden. And most of all, wild tangent, grow what you like to eat, grow what your family enjoys eating. That's like the best thing you could do for your garden. You don't want to grow several varieties of tomatoes and you guys don't even really eat tomatoes, or you don't even like them at all. So grow things that you like, spend your money and time on things that you want to do as often as possible. That's what keeps this gardening motivation alive. All right, so next are the how-tos. It says different types for different reasons. What can be planted together and what cannot be planted together? So in companion planting, there are different types of vegetables and fruits that can be planted together for different reasons. So on the left-hand side, you'll see you can plant lettuce with carrots. The lettuce is growing on top of the ground. The carrots are growing below. They're not taking up any space. They're not doing anything to each other. they can grow together. Onions and cabbage. As I mentioned earlier, onions have a strong scent to deter a lot of the pests away from the cabbage, so you're likely to have a successful growing cabbage. Peas with cucumbers. I've never done this before, but I know that cucumbers need a lot of nitrogen and peas can provide that. Cucumbers also benefit from being on a trellis if you get that variety. And while they're going up the trellis, so can your peas if you have that variety. Peppers with parsley. I have done this by accident in my garden. I did not see my parsley grow as rapid as it could. It could have been my soil nutritional value that affected it, but my peppers were prolific. I have not had a problem growing peppers in any bed in any type of soil in my garden. But right now I have two parsley bushes, I believe, and they are so full. They look so happy. And I just finished telling my husband, I have never seen my parsley grow so full and so big. So I can't wait to start. I'm pruning around the outside so it can continue to just grow more full. But I'm going to give her a name because she's as big as my broccoli. I planted them all at the same time. They all started as little small seedlings and she is just growing away. So I'm super excited about it. Other things that can be planted together, turnips with mint, I've never tried, Swiss chard with celery, spinach with peas, and pumpkins with corn. So that's a part of the Three Sisters. What cannot be planted together? Now, these are for various reasons. Things that cannot be planted together are usually because they will either stunt the growth of one or the other. They will cause pests that we don't want to come and be attracted to the opposite party. And sometimes they can affect the flavor or even the shape of the plant that it's next to. I haven't experienced that per se. I did plant cucumbers last year. They do, when you're purchasing plants, you have to be careful because they could be mixed with something else accidentally. Maybe it was lab intended. Who knows? But I purchased these cucumbers. I planted them next to a lot of other trellising things. I had squash there one year, and then I planted squash near the cucumbers one year, and the cucumbers came out more of a light yellow tint, and cucumbers already don't have much of a flavor to begin with. They taste like water, but they're really good and crunchy. But this time they taste even more bland and bland, if that makes sense. So think of something that's supposed to taste a certain way, but it's already kind of like bland, and then it just tastes even more bland, like water that's worse than water, if that makes sense. So yeah, so that's what happened. So the cucumbers were shaped like squash. They were coming out light like squash. And I just think my squash somehow meshed together with that cucumber because the variety was not the type of variety that these cucumbers were. I hadn't seen anything like it. I haven't even looked it up to see. So right now in that spot, I have cabbages that are there, and I planted some celery and some green onions. So that pretty much will take care of that space. But back to things that cannot be planted together. Tomatoes near broccoli or cabbage, they stunt growth. They take too many of the nutrients from each other. They compete. Potatoes and tomatoes, onions near beans and peas, peppers near fennel, tomatoes near peppers, cucumbers near tomatoes. All of these have a tendency to just take from the other or take too much. They're usually like nitrogen fixing in there, but they need more of it. So they take it from each other instead of sharing it like things that our companions can do. They also, like I said, bring pests that we don't want, unwanted pests to the area, and also may stunt the growth. So just be mindful of that when you're planting with companion planting, that you're making the right choices and did a little research. All right, so once you start the companion planting process, you get results. Whether you do it successfully or it's an epic fail, you're still going to get results from this. The results that you might get I put the question there. What happens when they share space? Think about people. When we share a space with people, whether we know them or not, whether we like them, love them, or whatever, we still have a tendency to fertilize each other. I do mean fertilize in the best way, such as a smile, a wave, a hug, a text message asking, how are you, sending a gift, a phone call, all of that stuff. All those things are ways that we encourage, build, support, check on, let each other know that we're there for them. Fertilize. That's what we do when we're companion planting. We give them an opportunity to fertilize each other, provide nutrients for each other, take care of each other. Like the second sentence says, that otherwise would need to be done with products or by us. Wild tangent, if I don't provide the companion plants, say flowers, if I don't have very many in my garden, I'm probably not going to attract as many bees or pests that would pollinate as quickly as I would if I had flowers there, which means now I have to do some work by hand pollinating everything in my garden, which last year I did. I found myself hand pollinating a lot because I did not have enough flowers growing around my garden. And now that my garden has expanded by four, five, six. So I have 4 beds and 2 grow bags with plants in them. Now that my garden has expanded and I'm planning to add 2 more beds, I'm going to need flowers. So I literally took 1 bed, it's a square bed, maybe 2 by 2, maybe. And I just filled it with flowers. So they're gonna be my cut flower bed. So I have tulips in there. I have nasturtiums in there, and I'm just like looking forward to all the things. Zinnias in there to cut and come against. So I'm excited. Dahlia, so like I'm probably going to be running more than I am out there picking because there are gonna be so many bees. All right, but you need flowers nonetheless, so you don't have to do as much work, which brings to the next sentence. It's less work for gardeners and easy work for plants. The plants have to do anything but take in the sun, drink up the water that's there, and you're protecting it by mulching or just planting heavily to protect and provide a little shade for the soil. And you're giving the plants an easy way to just pass what they have through their root systems to each other. And by putting them with a plant that they want to be around, that they like being around, or that they just don't mind being around, they're not getting much from it, but it's okay. You're making less work for yourself. Less weeding also to pick because you're, planting things that are like next to each other. Lastly, by planting things that go together, you run the risk of reaping some great consequences. One can be the way your produce tastes. The taste can change, the taste can improve heavily and become sweeter for your peppers or tomatoes, or more intense for your onions and your celery. Things smell better, like your watermelons and cantaloupes, because you planted them next to something great. Your corn will be fertilized properly. So you have all of the little ears of corn that are fully developed. Things will look better because they're being provided with the nutrients from their companion plants. So those are things that happen when you companion plant in these beautiful vegetables and fruits and herbs and flowers share spaces. So here's something that I want to suggest to you. Yeah, I know you thought it was me asking you guys for suggestions. No, this is something I want to suggest to you. Take the weight off your shoulders and just try it out. Everything you've learned in this short series today, just try it out. See what happens when you plant certain things together. Try it. It's experimental. Like I said before, some gardeners believe that it works, while others say that there isn't enough information to prove that it does. Now, I must say that I am still 50-50 on that, but it will not stop me from trying things out. I have tried some of these together, and I often find myself when I purchase a plant from my local garden center or I start to grow seeds, I try to figure out if I like it, if I want to eat it, where is it going to go? And if it does make a great companion for something else. And if it does, then it gives me an idea of where to plant it. It can get a little complicated, but I just step away from it and then I come back to it later. Like right now with my beds the way that they are, it was not planned. And now I have a plan, which means I need to figure out where I'm going to put everything that's growing now. And I have lots of things growing now, and I may have to give some away. That's exciting. All right. So thank you for sticking it out with me in this webinar slash workshop slash class. Once again, I'm Pranithia Harmon. You can reach me at this email address you see on the screen. You can do an inquiry on our website at thebinge.com. You can visit my Facebook page at TBYGE or visit us on Instagram at The Binge LLC, or you can join our Facebook group, which is amazing. It has tripled in size over the past month. I'm super excited. I'm continuing to send out invites. Facebook is continuing to promote it. And a lot of my classes and workshops are being put out there promotional wise as well, because my goal is to help you grow wherever you are planted. So if you need help growing something, if this webinar presents questions for you, email me. We can talk about it. We can figure out the next thing that you need to do to continue moving forward with your garden. We started with seed starting. Last week was prepping our soil. Today we're companion planting. And then the last two sessions will be on vertical gardening. And the final session is planting, care, and maintenance. So we'll have spent 5 Saturdays walking you through the process from start to finish, because I want you to have a successful experience growing. And this vertical gardening series will be hands-on mostly for myself, but I hope that you will bring anything that you might have to class as well to just kind of get an idea of what you can do with it and how to use it. I do have a arch trellis or arbor that I want to put up, and that might be a project that I work on as part of my vertical gardening session. So I hope that you guys can join me in that class. It will be very, very motivating and uplifting. And I just encourage you to continue to grow lots of things, because growing a garden is a step into tomorrow. So thank you for joining me. Go ahead and register. These last two classes are $15 each. If you want to see the entire 5-part series, it's $50 for that. And you can watch the replays, because you'll automatically be entered into and have access to our garden club on the website. So once you get into the garden club, you'll see the most recent videos of the class and possibly like a section that'll show where you can watch all of these videos. So thank you for joining me. I love you guys. You're awesome to work with. And if you have any questions, remember you can reach me by all of those elements. And you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you.